and get started. So tonight on the docket, who you have myself, Andy Zielinski. I am product marketing manager here at onX Offroad. Kind of oversee all things features. As you guys probably know, we recently launched a new feature called Route Builder. Hopefully you guys have gotten in, been able to play around with it. We would love to hear some of your feedback on the Route Builder experience. So yeah, let us know what you think. I'm based, as I said, in North Idaho, and my primary rig that I am ripping all around is a 95 Land Cruiser. It's been a bit of a bug recently because constantly leaking fluids, but you know how that goes with older rigs. And then my good buddy, Jake.
Hey everyone, I'm Jake. I am up in Missoula, Montana. I'm going to be handling the demo tonight, so I'm happy you all could join. And yeah, looking forward to showing you guys the app.
Cool. So what's on the docket for tonight? We've got a web map overview. So if you guys have a laptop or desktop open, make sure to go to onX Maps, load up your map, follow along. Super easy for you to be able to track with what Jake is talking about. And then we are going to transition over to the mobile app, which again, if you have the app open, it will be a great opportunity for you to open that thing up, play around with it. And then we will also have some Q&As. So we will be monitoring the chat, but just as a friendly reminder, as always, we request that you put any of your burning questions into the Q&A down below. We do have a chat, but our consumer experience team is actively monitoring the Q&A side of things. And then last but not least, we have a giveaway. So make sure to stick around to the end for a chance to get in on the giveaway. And without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Jake.
All right, thanks, Andy. Cool. How's that looking, Andy?
Looking good, man.
Sweet. Okay, appreciate it. All right, so for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, some of you out there are going to be a little bit more experienced, but for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to be coming at it from a very basic 101 approach. So for those of you who are a little ahead of the curve, and you might have already seen some of this stuff, just be patient. We'll get to some more advanced features later on. And as Andy mentioned, this will be recorded, and I do have to kind of go fast on this thing. I'll try to slow it down, but we only have an hour to get through this thing. So I am going to dive right in. Okay. So immediately when you open the web version, it's going to look something like this, right? We're all familiar with this. As you start zooming into your area where you're at, you're going to start seeing things come to life. And before we even dive in farther, I kind of want to just sit here for a second and just go over some basic app settings and different things. You might be, want to customize your app, all these different things. So in this down right here in this bottom left-hand corner, you're going to have your settings. This is where you're going to want to set your units, your GPS. We can do decimal, DMS, or UTM, depending on your preference here. This is where you can enable your crosshairs. On your phone, you would do this, and it would be enabled pinch to rotate. You can hide all your coordinates, just cool stuff like that. So that's one of the first things I recommend diving into. Just get the proper features that you want enabled. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner, this is where you're going to toggle your map options. And so if you dive into here, you have your satellite view, you have your hybrid, and you have your topo. And this 3D function, when we'll get to in a little bit when I zoom in a little more, but this is where you would hit 3D. So we'll dive in here. We'll just dive into Moab because this is a pretty familiar area to most of you. And it's off-road capital of the US. So pretty cool. A lot of trail data around here. So this will be a good spot to start. So everything in this app, and including on your phone, this is all going to be, everything's interactive. So if you come in here and you're like, what is going on with all these colors? What is all this? You can just simply tap the map and it's going to pull up. Okay, well, this is arches. You come down here, you click on this. This is a big chunk of BLM. You come in here, you zoom in. What's this blue stuff? This is state land. So keep that in mind. And this applies to everything, including trails. So if you zoom back out and you see all these green and blue trails right here, these are all open trails right now. the red squiggly ones, which this area doesn't have a lot of closures right now anyway, but this is what a closed trail would look like. You can click on it. It'll tell you the season dates, all that good stuff. The difference, what we get asked a lot, what's the difference between the regular green and then with this blue highlight? So this simply means, I'll show you an example. So if we go to Moab Rim, for example, this is going to be a featured trail. A featured trail is going to be loaded with photos, difficulty rating, description on it, all this stuff. And this is what we actually have users go out there and submit this to us. And so we know it's super accurate. A normal green trail, we'll find a normal green one. So a normal green one will still bring up data. It's just not going to be with the photos and the very detailed description. So anyway, that is how do you look at trails. So I'm going to dive on the left-hand side and work my way down, and then we'll get into some tools. But right out of the gate, we have our search function. So you can search here by location. You can search by coordinates. If you have the elite membership, which this demo is in right now, you can search by landowner. That's pretty cool. Moving on to this discover feature. This is incredibly powerful, especially if you're going to a new area, and say some of you tuning in have never been to Moab, and then say you're looking at Moab and you go, oh wow, look at all these trails and all this BLM, all this camping, all that stuff you can do. I would recommend pulling up this discover card. And as I'm scrubbing the map, you see this change based on where I'm teed up on the map. So this is going to base on the distance that I'm looking at. So if you can scroll down here and you're looking and, oh, cool, Buttes and Towers, that looks cool. You click on it, it's going to highlight it. This one happens to be a featured trail. You'd come in here. You'd be like, oh, cool. Yeah, I want to do this. Difficulty rating. Yeah, sure. 3, I'll do it. And this has trail reports here too. So if one of you out there were to do this, for example, and say a big boulder fell across the road or something, this is where you would come in here and you would add a trail report here. You can also report an error in here. You can drop a waypoint directly from the trail. You can share this trail from here. There's a ton of different stuff that you can do. Next item down the list is your offline maps. I'm sure most of you have heard us talk about this, but this is truly one of the most important things that you can do. You got to cache the map before you leave cell service, and then you're going to have full functionality when you are out of service. And so you can do this, say you're on your desktop, just like I am right here. You can hit your offline maps. You're going to go new map. And then just say, for this example, we're going to do poison spider. So we know poison spiders in there, Moab Rim's in there. This is where you would change your resolution. So obviously the bigger the map you make, it's going to be not as high resolution. And so what I like to tell people is, if you know you're going to be in an area, I would just do a giant one. And then see how I already have, these are some personal offline maps that I have right now, but you have your big box, and then you want to stitch your high res boxes in between your big box. And so at least if you go outside of these green boundary lines, you will at least be covered. So we'll do this. We'll go over to poison spider. That's looking pretty good. We'll name it like that. Cool. Save that. And then this is going to prompt you, hey, make sure that you go onto your mobile device, because there is one more step here. And I'll show you when I swap over to the mobile device, but you go, okay, got it, cool. And these are really important. You guys got to make sure that you do this before you head out. A lot of time we'll hear, hey, well, it wasn't working, or I lost the imagery or whatever. It's probably because the offline map was not downloaded properly. So make sure you do that. And there's no limit to these. It's as much as your phone can hold it. The phones nowadays are so insane that you can have, hundreds of these. And I almost have all the Montana downloaded. So wherever you guys, your home off-roading states, or where you're going on a trip or wherever, just make as many offline maps as you're scouting as you can. So next item is my content. So this is where everything, all your waypoints, tracks, areas, lines, all this stuff is going to live. This is also where you would come in to import and export waypoints. So if you had waypoints or coordinates from another program, this is where you come in here, you'd hit this import button, and then you can drag in KML or GPX right here. You can click and drag. It is super fast. That's how you do that. Same thing here if you wanted to export it. That's how you do that there. So I have all my pins hidden right now, but I'm gonna illuminate them just so we can see some stuff come to life here. All these things right here, folders. For those of you who have not played with folders, I would highly recommend playing with folders. This is extremely helpful for weekend getaways. If you got multiple parties coming, if you got some buddies linking up with you, this is where you guys can organize all this stuff. So like if I were to come in here and say I'm going to Moab this weekend and I want to do Poison Spider, you can stitch together your route. You can save that route. You can save all your waypoints, which I'll show here in a sec when I get to the toolbar. And you would package all these things into a folder, and then you'd say, hey, Moab folder, weekend, whatever, trip. And then you'd send that out to your group, and then it would unpack, and it would add everything from the route that you guys are going to do. You can do route day 1, day 2, day 3. You can just get as crazy as you want with these things. So highly recommend getting familiarized with folders. This is the next tab down is going to be my garage. Some of you may or may have not played with this, but this is where you'd come in here, you'd add your vehicle. It gives you the opportunity to custom build. And so the reason for this is it'll filter by what you select based on what kind of rig it is. And so and it'll also do all your tracks that you do. It'll give you like a total mileage column, which is pretty cool. So play around with that one. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, how this is demoed on an elite membership. You also have with the elite membership right here, you have your elite benefits. And so these are our partners. And then we have separate master classes for this one. So if this intrigues you guys, stay tuned and be watching for in your inboxes for an elite specific masterclass. But that is that. This top button right here is where you would switch between dirt or snow mode. We're just now getting out of our sled season. There's still some snow that you can chase, but for the most part, it's pretty done up here. But for those of you in the crowd who do want a snowmobile, next winter, this is where you enable it. It'll show you slope angle, slope aspect, AVI forecast, snow tell sites, all that stuff. This is where you'd come in and filter. So if there's some single track people out in the audience, you can cut that out, and that's going to be that slick rock trail right there, that single track. I'd recommend just leaving it all on, because again, you can click into something and tell that, oh, there's a single track, that's a dirt bike trail. So keep that in mind. And then let's zoom in a little farther. And then, as I just said, with the elite membership, that also gives you the opportunity for pulling up private land ownership data. So you come in here, you can click on private parcels, see who owns it. It'll give you their tax address. And this can be super handy because sometimes if you are cutting through a road or you don't know if it's legal or not, you can see if it's, surrounding ranch. And sometimes you're out in the middle of nowhere and there could even be a gate, and then it's a fake gate. Like I've had that happen too, where it's like you look and you pull up the app and go, oh no, this is still state land. So that's something to keep in mind. Let me refresh this real quick. Okay, cool. So moving on to the tools on the right-hand section here. So this first one right here is going to be our route builder. And as Andy stated in the beginning of the call, he was on this project and we're super excited to get this thing rolled out. I'll give a more detailed demo towards the end of the call of this route builder, but just to give you guys the gist of it. So you click on your route builder, and then you're going to have this ability to snap to. If you want to get more real estate on your screen, if you're doing a larger route, you can close this up and then expand it later for the details, but I'll just have it collapse for now. But this is where you'd come in here. Let's just say, for example, we're going to do Poison Spider. So you'd click, and as I'm dragging, it is snapping to the trail. So you can stitch together some really cool routes. This is really good for directional, where your trail is, if you loop back, and then you'd hit that final pin right there, and then you hit escape on the keyboard, and then I would open this back up. And I recommend doing it something if you guys start getting more advanced with this route builder feature, I'd recommend doing more of a high contrast color, like black pops really well, even purple. Purple looks really good. Yellow looks really good, just so it doesn't blend. Because once you start getting all your routes together, it can look pretty busy. So just keep them separate. You can come in here and just do day one Moab. We can save this. We'll close out of this. Let's move on to the next feature, which is add a waypoint. And this thing pops up dead center of the screen, and then you can click on it and drag it, and then you can drag it wherever you want. And so let's just put this one at the trailhead. We can name this trailhead, and then this is where you would expand. Then we have all these different waypoints that you can come in here, and then you can find trailhead. There it is. Cool. Save it. And I'm not going to do, the whole thing, but you guys can see pretty quick how crazy you can get with this. You can put 100 waypoints along this route. You can put lunch spots, viewpoints, meetup spots, parking lots, all these different things. And so what I recommend doing for you guys is when you're going to find yourself dropping a lot of waypoints. And so I would just kind of get into your own system of waypoint colors. So like, for example, all water stuff, I have blue, all my snowmobile stuff's purple, all camping stuff's white. So just get your own system down so that when you have thousands of these waypoints, you don't have to dive into every single one of them and go, oh yeah, that's what that is. And so anyway, so let me go back to folder really quick, because I want to show you guys what this would look like now that we have a waypoint and at least a route. So you come in here, you'd hit add folder. Let's just say, let's just do Moab weekend trip. We're going to save that. We're going to see it pop up here. You're going to click into this folder and you're going to hit add content. And when you hit add content, you see all the nearby waypoints pop up, and you can either do it by checking them here, or I like to just go in there and click on the waypoint itself. So you'll see it kind of highlight behind it. We'll do this. We'll click the route. And now those two items are now added to my folder. So now if I wanted to share this to Andy and say, hey, this is the trailhead, this is the route we're doing, meet me there. Like that's how you would do it. And you can get as crazy as you want with this. You can have your campsites, parking lots, drop-offs, all that stuff can be packed into there. So keep that in mind. This is really cool. Delete, rename. But yeah, that is the foldering. Another really cool tool feature right here is, let me get to a more open area in the desert. So this is a cool tool that I like to bring up that not a lot of people think to use it this way, but it's really cool. It's this draw your shape area. And this is really helpful if you have massive parties, if you have fifth wheels rolling, class A's, whatever. If you guys got a bunch of big rigs, this is a really cool area, because looking at satellite, an area might look big, and this will probably more apply to more mountainous areas where you see like a timber patch or an open patch within timber. That would probably be more helpful here, because obviously the desert's a little more open, but same idea, right? So you'd click on here, you can map out a little spot and like, oh, cool. That's 79 by 108. That's perfect. We can go like camp spot, something like that, right? We can save that. You can change all this. So really cool there. And last tool on the toolbar is going to be this line distance. This is just going to be your point. So this also is a really unique tool that you can use for things that you might not have used before. Like this is like, for example, I'm redoing a fence line, and this I can pull up on satellite and be like, oh, it's, however many feet of fence line. So it's pretty cool. So you can use this for a bunch of things. But yeah, play around with it. And then you'd also add a photo waypoint here. I forgot to touch on that one, but you can add photo waypoints in two ways. You can directly add them, or you can click back into them, and then you would hit edit, and then you'd come in here and you would add your photo here. On a mobile device, it's a little easier, because then you don't have to transfer photos over to your computer, but I'll show it when I go to the mobile device. But the last thing I wanted to touch on before I jump to the mobile is this 3D. So as I mentioned earlier, this is where you toggle the base maps, but this is also where you toggle your 3D. So you tilt into 3D. I like to pull this 3D elevation exaggerator up a little bit because that's probably pretty realistic right there. But you can zoom in here, and as you guys can see, this gets pretty wild. You come in here. I'm on a Mac, but I'm pretty sure it should be the same for everyone. But if you hit Control and then you click, and then you can drag around and see all these different things. And if there's a trail running along an edge, for example, you can get a really good idea what you're getting yourself into when you scout with this 3D tool. So keep that in mind. To get out of it, you go to 2D, and then now you're back straight up and down. So I know that was super fast, but I am going to jump over to mobile really quick and show you a few different things that are a little different than the web version. So one sec. All right, Andy, can you see my phone?
We got it.
Cool. All right. So this little blue indicator. So as I mentioned, I'm just south of Missoula, so it's pinging on where I'm at right now. So we're going to jump outside of Moab here for a second. But for those of you who have the app in their hands right now, I'd encourage you to follow along with this because there's some cool tips and tricks that we can do on a phone. First things first. Put your 2 fingers on the screen and you're going to slide up. This is going to give you your tilt. So then you can zoom in this way. Really cool there. To get out of that, you take your 2 fingers and you drag it back up. And I know it's kind of hard because you can't tell what my fingers are doing, but that's how you do it. So 2 fingers, drag. That's how you do that. Another thing is this bottom right-hand corner, you're going to have an indicate button. And see wherever if you get lost on the map and you're looking, you're scouting, and you don't know where you're at, just hit that orient button and it's going to get you back. You tap it again and it's going to give you a directional. So this is really cool. Not a lot of people know that this does this, but this is super handy, especially if you're in like really open desert or you're trying to like hit a road or whatever. This is where you would do it. And then you would point to the direction. And I'm facing south right now. So to get out of that, you'd hit that again, and then it goes back north-south orientation. For the offline maps that I teed up on in Moab, it's going to show up in my mobile device. And remember how we got that little indicator that was like, hey, don't forget, download your offline maps. There it is right there. That's the offline map that I made. And then you hit that, you complete that. And the last feature on mobile that's different is going to be your go and track mode. So when you hit that bottom right-hand corner, this is where it gets you into that tilt view and it'll go like a puck. And then you'd hit record track and then it would give you your breadcrumbs. You can also edit those down too. So say you're on a dirt bike and you have your tracker on and then you forget it and then you drive down the highway and then you're like, oh shoot, like my tracker tracked all the way home. That don't worry, you can click back into it and you can trim a track up, no problem. So yeah, that's it for mobile. Andy, I'll hand it over to you, and then we'll do some use case and answer some of your guys' questions. But again, I know that was super fast. There's a lot to cover in this thing. But yeah, Andy, why don't we fire off with some questions?
Yeah, so first one to note, I think a super kind of thorough like use case. Let's say you and I are making a trip down to Big Bear. Okay. What is your process to which you are planning out that trip? What are your top features that you want to kind of make sure that you are fully well versed in? And then let's say that I'm going to meet up with you. How am I going to be able to get those plans?
Yeah, totally. Let me jump back to web. Okay, how's that looking?
Looks good.
Sweet. Okay. No, great question. So how I would do that, there's a few different things you can do that, but Mainly, I mean, it depends what adventure you're looking for. So let's say we're gonna drive a rig down there. Let's say we got a couple dirt bikes. Let's say now the weather's nice, so we're gonna camp, and so that would mean you'd have to factor in where state land is. Are there single track around that area? Are trails open around that area? So for your example that you wanted to bring up, so Big Bear, for example, I'd come in here, and these are actually tracks that we're planning. Andy and I are planning on doing here in the next couple of weeks. So it's perfect. But these were tracks that were shared to us. So a prime example of, we're going on a big group ride, and the guys shared it out, and we're like, hey, here's the route we're doing. Here's where we're camping, all this different stuff. But what I would do, I'd come in here, I'd start scrubbing around. I would start clicking on stuff, getting kind of a lay of the land. This is John Bull Trail. Oh, that's cool. You never know that this was massive boulders in here unless you dove into some of these photos, right? So I'd be like, all right, cool. That looks fun. I'd come over here. Let's see this one. Okay, that looks sweet. That looks like a little faster road. And then there's some single track in here too. So let's just pretend that we're going to camp. Let's say we're coming off of this Highway 247. And then we all know how BLM land is pretty loose with camping laws and all that. And I don't know, I think it's 14 days for most states. I know it is for Utah, but I'm not sure where our example here is in California. But anyway, say that it is the same thing. And oh, look, this road cuts down and it hits this chunk of BLM. So I'd probably look into something like this, like, oh, cool, look, there's a little pull off. That's totally fair game to camp. You can offload the dirt bikes there. Say you run the bikes up the road, hit some of these higher trails, you can do it that way. If you wanted to go up a little farther, you can come in here, and this satellite is so good that you can come in here and you can see these little offshoots. They might not be labeled, but you can come in here and go, oh, clearly that looks like a camping spot. Go a little farther. That looks like there's some room right there. So I'd come in here and I'd drop a waypoint. I go like this. Camp option 1. I'd come in here. I label this camp. I like to do white waypoints for camping. And then I would come in here and you can type your notes. So this is where I'd be like, potential camp night 1, or plan A or plan B or whatever. I would save this. Cool, that's camp. And then I'd start looking for different roads and trails to hit. This one's right out of camp. I'd come in here probably. I'd use Route Builder. I'd go from camp. I'd click and drag this. And I'd come in here. And I'm clicking too. So like if you guys are playing with this and you start to feel it pull one way and you don't want it to go that way, you just got to tap it and then drop another point. But let's just say, let's go to this split and then we're going to turn around. And especially this is especially important because this example is, say you're on a dirt bike for this. This gives you an idea of what your fuel range is, right? Most modern, 300 two-strokes are doing like a 55, 60 mile range, depending on how hard you are on the throttle. But this is at least a great gauge. You come in here and be, all right, well, this route's only 5 miles. And then you can start just stitching more and more and more and go, all right, cool. I'm under 40 miles or I'm under 50 miles. Like, this is perfect. And so let's do ride day 1. I'm going to save that. I'm going to leave that yellow. Now, how I demoed a little bit ago, how the foldering would work, I would do the exact same thing here. I'd come in here, I'd add a folder. I'd go Big Bear trip. I'd save this. There it is. I'd click into it. I'd add my content. I would add this route and I would add this waypoint. And if you want, I mean, you could even come up off the pavement and say, hey, turn off here, stay on this road here, split here. We're going to stop here. Like, you guys can just get as crazy as you want with this thing. But for the purpose of this, we're just going to do these 2 items in this folder. I would come out here. Cool. Yep. Camp option 1. Oops, spelled that wrong. Oops. Camp option 1 and then ride day 1. And then this is where I would share this. It's going to give you, copy the link. So you can send it out email, you can text it, whatever. So you can do that too. And for those of you who are group leaders and you have big groups, say, you can put it on a Facebook page that you can open it that way too. But that's where you would copy that. Andy would then get it, unpack it, and then we'd be good to go.
Right on. So a couple questions emerged during this. If, let's say, you wanted to, or I wanted to, edit the route that was made, how would you go about editing that route?
Cool. So say this is a perfect example right here. Like say, oh shoot, we didn't want to take this split. We actually wanted to go down this left split. So you'd click into the route you just made, you would hit edit. And then from here, you can drag or delete those points. So I come back here, delete that point, and then I can start drawing down the new path, that correct path, that would be the left split. That's how you change that. And this is also where you could, let's just pause it right there, hit escape. And this is also where you could change the color. You can rename it. You can do different styling. If you like the dash or the dot, you can do the weight. And then you can put the notes in here. And that folder owner too, by the way, will be able to change that and it'll reflect on when you share it out. So keep that in mind too.
And I think there's some questions around when sharing the folder, does the recipient need to have an onX account to be able to access the folder?
Yeah, they do. I mean, there is the version like for the camping, for example, like you could click on it and then copy the coordinates, and then you can give coordinates if you wanted. But yeah, they're going to have an onX account to open it.
Cool. Something else that has come up, and now this might be fun just to show if you could on phone, but the power of building a route on mobile, given that that's a pretty fun experience to play around with.
Yeah, cool. I can do that. Let's see. All right, I will pause this. I will reshare the phone. Okay, resume. All right, how's that looking, Andy?
Looks good.
Okay, sweet. So let's go down to Moab area again. So let's just do, let's see. So say we're in this area right here. I don't know what this trail is, but oh, this is Gemini. Okay, cool. So you're going to come down here. So same thing, similar to the desktop version, it's going to be in your tool menu. So you're going to hit tools. You're going to go build route. And I know it's hard because you guys can't see where I'm tapping, but say I'm tapping right off of the pavement, I'm tapping, and it's going to do the same concept's going to apply. So you're going to tap, snap, and it's going to go. Come in here, name it, whatever you want, save that. And then this is where you would share it out. And again, it's going to be in a text. Text is the easiest way. They're going to open it and know how to do it that way. Same thing's going to apply if you're like, oh, whoops, I didn't mean to go that route or that far. Come in here, you can edit it and you can change the color in here. This is where you would take away lines as well. So yeah, it's the same concept, but it's pretty slick and mobile. So I would recommend you guys digging in there and playing around with it. It's a really, really powerful tool.
Cool. A couple questions. I think while we're in mobile, let's stay on mobile topics. But one question that has come up, the go and track feature, can you edit or trim down tracks once they've been laid?
Yes, you can. So, and then this is also, I will say, well, I say, yes, you can if you're the one who laid the tracks. If you had tracks shared to you, you cannot edit those tracks. So let's see, this is one I did a couple years ago down just around Green River area. So a buddy and I took the bikes down 10-mile wash. It's going to give you your whole stats. I named it 10 mile. It took just under 4 hours. It was 30 miles. This right here, if you see on the bottom right-hand corner, this is where you go trim track. So you go, cool, yep, edit this. and then you can either slide it from the beginning or the end. So that example that I gave earlier, if you load the bikes and you're ripping down the highway, you'd probably trim it from the end. So as you can see, I'm trimming that, it's shrinking. And then you can trim from the beginning on the other half or on the other side too. So that's how you trim a track.
Cool. Another one that I want to hit on. So let's go back to the web map.
Okay.
This one has come up quite a bit, so I want to make sure that we are capturing this, as this has been the most asked feature. Offline maps. So spend a little bit more time on offline maps, because I think this is probably one of the most powerful tools we offer. So how you access the offline map, the process by which you're deciding which map resolution size you're choosing, and then where to access them going forward.
Totally. Yep, I can do that. So we'll just stay in the same Big Bear area. So we'll just keep playing off of this example of Andy and I are doing a trip here. So you'd come in here, you'd hit your offline maps, you'd hit new map, and then you're going to get this box is going to come up. And you're going to see here on the left-hand side, it's going to be low, medium, or high resolution. So the higher you go up, let's just do this for example, like let's do some low resolution, and I'm zooming out. And so I would probably, you're probably not going to get out of this area, right? If you guys are just going there for a weekend. So that's a huge area. So I'd come in here, I would save this one. Here, I name it. Okay, that same message just says, hey, don't forget to go on your mobile device and go into your offline, and you will see this. And that also is the importance of naming these offline maps too. So then when you do go on your mobile device, you'll recognize and go, that's my big bear offline map. And then you see all these other little green boxes. These are other offline maps that I made. So I'd come in here and see exactly where we're going to be riding. And it's just going to be in this general area. I'd hit new offline map again, and then I would do a higher resolution, and I would name this, hey, Big Bear riding area 1, high resolution. Cool, you're good to go. You'd hit save, and then the same thing would apply. You have to go over to your mobile device, and then you'll see that offline map that you just named, and it'll be good to go. But then if you do your high resolution, it's going to look like this when you guys are out there with zero service. Like it's pretty insane. So do your high resolution areas along the trail, and you can like stitch your route and your journey together, and then you guys are fine. And then actually let me pop over to mobile again, Andy, because this is the other step. Okay. All right, cool. So the phone's still over Moab. So we'll go over to Big Bear area. So that little note that we got, we're going to hit offline maps. And then I didn't save it fully on web, but when you do save it on web, it's going to pull up, and you're going to see that offline map that you just made on your desktop pull up in here. You're going to hit download. And then this is also another important thing here. This offline button, if you tap it, this is going to tell your phone, this is basically forcing your phone into airplane mode. So those spots in service where it's, you may be crest the hill, you might grab 1 or 2 bars, and you will occasionally get a text or something like that. I would just force your phone into offline, and it's telling your phone like, hey, rely on my offline maps. And don't try to grab a weak signal, because your phone is always going to try to grab a signal before. So you have to tell it, unless you're in an area that, you have good service, don't worry about it. I'd still have an offline map anyway, because why not? But that's where you do that. If you find your app doing some weird stuff, just force it into offline mode, and you'll be golden.
Cool. That's great. There is some chatter around, especially given, I think, the seasonality, the late winter we've had. Some trails may or may not be open. We briefly touched on trail report, but would you mind just going to one of the blue trails, which we call a featured trail, as Jake mentioned? They are simply trails that have data that have been submitted by our trail guides. So they have a little bit more detail. Will you click on one of the blue trails and just show what the status report looks like? And then in the case that maybe we are down around the Big Bear area, we find that a trail is closed, how would we submit the trail report? Now, everyone who's joining on this call, I just do want to flag that this is a new feature that we have rolled out quietly over the last couple of weeks. So you might be poking around trying to find trail reports before you head out on the weekend. And you might find that there's just not a lot of information because this is a new feature. This is a crowdsourced a bit of data. So my ask to all of you guys is get out there, start running some trails. If you get to a trail that is a blue featured trail that does not have a trail report or a status update, please make that update so the community knows what the status of that trail is. So Jake, do you just kind of want to walk through what that process could look like?
Yep, totally. All right, cool. So again, you just click on that blue trail, you pull this up and just say, for example, there's a huge slide or something like that. There's some snow up there, it slid, it blew out the road. You'd tap into the trail and then you'd go add trail report. This is pretty cool. It'll tell you who it's submitted by, select the date, and all that stuff. And then you'll see it. Let me go over, because I know we have some recent updates in that Moab area just to show you guys what it looks like. I mean, obviously places that get hit harder off-roading, there's more likely to be a trail report. Poison doesn't have a trail report. Let's see. Hells doesn't have a report anyway. Anyway, that's where it would show up. It would, where it says no trail reports, you would see submitted by whoever submitted that, and it'll tell you how long ago it's been submitted. Just so you guys know, because there are those things that a boulder or a washout or something like that closes trails all the time. So keep that in mind.
Cool. That's great. Yeah. And again, for all of you guys who are joining, make sure to actively participate in providing trail status to the app. One thing that we might have glossed over, and this maybe spend a couple minutes on this, and this might be our last question we cover, but importing and exporting. So importing GPX files and then exporting to other files to other folks. Can you just walk us through the limitations and what we are able to pull over from, let's just say, another GPS map service?
Yeah, totally. So I can actually go over, I'll go back over to web map. It's larger on the screen, but it's going to apply the same on your mobile device. It's going to be under the same tool and all that stuff. All right, cool. So you dive into your content right here. And you would you can either hit this import button or you can hit these three dots here if you wanted to export. But let's just say you had a bunch of KML or GPX files. That's pretty popular, especially in the race scene. Race courses will sometimes get added in KML files. And so if you get those files, you can come in here and import them. You can select them from the computer, or you can simply click and drag them in. And you'd hit, obviously I don't have a folder to import right now, but if you did, this is where you do it. You'd hit import and it is super fast, and you're going to see all those waypoints and all your stuff populate. So don't feel like you get stuck. I know, our waypoints become, precious to us, and those are memories, and our waypoints are important. So if you guys do have some waypoints or coordinates on other platforms, you can absolutely transfer them over. So keep that in mind.
Cool. I think that covers it. Any last call outs that you want to make, Jake, before we move it over to the giveaway?
Yeah, actually, one last thing that I was thinking about. For those who are tuning in from the East, we do have a lot of these private parks mapped. And so if you're hovering here and you start to see these purple little dots pop up and you're scrolling around, those are actually going to be private parks. So you can dive in here, you can scroll around. Let's pick Hatfield. Hatfield's a popular one. So you could come in here and it's going to populate all the trails around here. Like I said, we are constantly getting these. We're working with private parks every day. We're still trying to figure out, what the best way to do these, map these, because of course every private park is going to have their different style and all that. But anyway, for those of you who are tuning in from the East Coast and the East Side, keep that in mind that private parks are in there, and then we are working every day to get them more detailed.
You're getting a lot of interest and chatter in the chat from our East Coast contingent. Anything else to kind of hit on for the East Coast folks?
No, not really. I mean, obviously you guys don't have as much public land as the West does. So that's where this elite membership is really going to pay off. Cause I mean, you come in here and you just start to see just private property everywhere, which is no surprise to anybody, but that's just the reality of it. But it's still like good. You can come in here and go, oh, cool. I didn't know that this was state here. Right. So, really cool. You can find those little pockets of state. And then, I mean, you hear people all the time like, oh, I didn't even know, 2 blocks down was a piece of state land, and no one would know. There's no signs. And so it's just really cool to be scrubbing around where you're at, and just seeing. So pretty cool. And then also on the private land ownership deal too, these get updated by the county too. So if any of you just recently moved, we hear all the time like, oh, my name's not right. It's just stay patient. That's just a county upload, but we will get it in there. So keep that in mind. But that pretty much covers it for the East. Yeah, that's it.
Right on. Well, thank you, Jake. As mentioned, this is being recorded. We will have all of this available on our YouTube channel. So be sure to go to the YouTube channel, onX Offroad, Masterclass. We have a whole catalog of previous recordings that we have hosted there. Jake, if you don't mind, I'm going to steal the screen from you. And now is the time that you all have been patiently waiting for. So, Jake, let me know if you can see my screen. Yep. Okay, cool. So we have, as a giveaway, and a thank you for joining tonight, a giveaway of 25 onX Offroad beanies. No purchase is necessary, but you must have an onX Offroad account. Please note that the basic account is free, but as mentioned, there are a ton of benefits of whether you are a premium user, which is $30 a month or a year, or elite, which is $100 a year. And as Jake just mentioned, one of the key benefits of elite is that private land data, which has saved my butt many times. We also have another masterclass that is completely dedicated to all things elite. So if you are curious about the different brand partnerships that we have being activated, make sure to check out onX Offroad Elite. Sign up for a masterclass there. They're being hosted once a month. And then, like I said, giveaway, click that link. We'll drop a link into the chat. Make sure to enter. Entries close at midnight tonight. And may the 4th be with you. Happy trails out there, everybody. Hope you guys are getting out and getting rad. And we will see you out there soon. Go farther with onX Offroad. Thanks.